Star Wars Day, May the 4th be with you. It's getting closer than ever before. Probably in like 5 days, 4 days later. And as a huge Star Wars fan, I had a good idea to almost watch every Star Wars content that I didn't watch. I already watched all the movies from The Phantom Menace all the way to The Rise of Skywalker. I like all of them. There's a short thing, I like all of them. There's nothing I don't like. Maybe I'm just a stupid poo brain, but it doesn't matter. My opinion, I like the Star Wars stuff I watch. You don't have to tell me which one you should like, I should not like. It doesn't matter. That's the end of the story of that. Okay, I even watch so many stuff. I'm a big Star Wars fan. I do have some dislikes that I don't, during Star Wars, such as the acolytes. If you don't know, I made a huge rant about the recent Star Wars Acolyte. If some of y'all noticed, you should go give that a watch. And unfortunately, I didn't get to finish this stuff on order because I've seen Rebels and I already saw the Tales of the Jedi. Now I'm supposed to continue from the Tales of the Jedi, and then the cartoon version of Clone Wars, and then the 3D Clone Wars, and then the Bad Batch, and then Rebels, and then Star Wars Resistance. And wait, I started The Mandalorian. I haven't even watched The Mandalorian yet. I know. And then Book of Boba, and then the Star Wars Resistance. So I haven't watched all of the Star Wars content yet. Forgive me, I know, but I'm a good Star Wars fan. I know. For those of you who say otherwise, hold on just a sec. Thank you. I am a Kendoka, and also a lot of Kendoka is in Star Wars. George Lucas was a big inspired by Samurai Fight, and also some of the moves are in Kendo. For examples, when Mace Windu and Emperor Palpatine was fighting during Episode 3, they did this move, and then they attack each other's head. That is a Kendo strike, a menace strike. It is there. You just have to see it. Samuel Jackson and Mark Hamill did have time to practice Kendo. But I'm also a bit angry there when I, sometimes strike or, get a bit competitive during tournaments or Keiko. So I might be a little bit darkish. And yes, I did watch the Star Wars Revenge of the Sith 20th anniversary. The time when Anakin kills those younglings, it was dear to my heart. It was pretty great. Younglings. But today we're going to talk about the one I just already watched. The Bad Batch. Now, just as usual, we're going to be counting up through 10 things, like from characters, plot, background, music, and everything, and action, fight choreographies, and all that. So, because the thing is, I'm going to be honest with you, I've recorded this twice. This is my second time recording. The other video was too long, which almost destroyed my phone because it had too much memory. I guess I have an old phone or something, but I really want to do YouTube. It doesn't matter if I, have a stupid camera or whatever. So while we're talking about the Bad Batch, I'm be sitting here, putting you some uncopyrighted music and drinking fruit tea, not drinking, YouTube. Now let's talk about the unimportant stuff because there's obviously 10 things that I need to catch up. First is the music. It's pretty good, and there's nothing that I don't like. There's some really good music that makes me like, what, and putting me in the edge of my seat until something like really patriotic. It's very militarized. The background is great. The background, like the planets and stuff, and also the places where mostly different planets. It's very interesting because it's Star Wars, a huge universe out there. There's probably a lot of things. And then I guess I could say the action. We're getting there. So the action was pretty amazing. There's a lot of fight scenes. There's a lot of things I don't like, such as how so many droids are starting to miss, and how so many clone troopers are starting to feel like droids and regular stormtroopers. I really don't like that. It just makes them less shooters. We get it that, the Bad Batch can shoot way better and all that because they're special and everything. But that doesn't mean the clone troopers are also excellent shots because they were just born to do it. And some of them, they weren't using stun. There's a lot of stun during this because some of them don't like to shoot, but some of them do like to shoot whoever clone troopers or which stormtrooper is. I don't know, but the fight with so many, the action scenes, the siege are so great. Like for example, is Crosshair. Crosshair was a really good one for the mission, and there was a lot of Jedi stuff here too. There's another thing I really like about the Bad Batch. There's not a lot of Jedi stuff. I guess you can say that. Some little nitpicks that we can put that down now. A little nitpicks here. There's not much Jedi stuff. There's more about like the daily lives during Star Wars, and the struggles, what's going on in the Star Wars world, like how people need to eat and what, like figuring out what's happening, what's going on. We don't know. It's really great. There are some Jedi stuff, but it's basically just like one Jedi stuff that's happening for every episode. Like you can get to see one lightsaber scene in one episode, which is really great to me because this is a Bad Batch. It's basically about soldiers surviving. I guess there's not really much to talk about the nitpicky things that I want to talk. So let's get into like the big main five, the plot. The plot's pretty simple for season 1. It is basically the beginning of Order 66. Now, spoiler alerts. I don't need to put a spoiler alert before, like the music, the background, and everything. I'm just gonna put the spoiler alert now because there's going to be a lot of stuff that you're not gonna understand, or if you're not a big Star Wars fan, because there are a lot of things that are going to connect from this to episode 7, 8, 9, 2, and 6, 5, 4, 5, 6. So you're gonna have to listen or watch the Bad Batch. Season 1 is very simple. After the Clone Wars, the Order 66 was happening. Nobody knows why, nobody knows what's going on, and then at some point the Bad Batch stop. They go on their own and start finding how to, live off the life and become normal. So they went to become, just gun for hires for Sid. Is this guy who's hiring them, who is also a friend of Jedi. Can't tell much about it, but yeah, that's basically it. There's also a huge thing that's happening. I'm actually not gonna say it because you're just kind of looking on, so I won't give you too much spoilers. Season 2 is basically fighting for clone rights. Clone lives matter, guys. There's a lot of political stuff that's happening, which is fine to me. There's some filler stuff, and it goes on to a mystery about what's Omega's purpose in the Bad Batch, because Omega is here, and Omega is a huge influence in the Bad Batch. And then season 3 is basically like the end game or something. It's basically what is his purpose. We need to free all the clones and stuff, and we also need to figure out why are they doing this? Why is the clones are being unused? They're being replaced by the big scary Oogie Boogie Empire. Now for the writing, it's pretty okayish. I don't know any cringe words or any words that doesn't make sense. But there was a lot of going this and going that to get this and to get that. For examples, we need the database for this HQ so we can open up the keys, and we need to unlock the history of this thing and that whatever. That's some part of the Bad Batch, and there's also like fillers. Now I gotta mention to you, there are some fillers. If you're not a filler enjoyer, that is so fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But the fillers here are either very interesting or very lackluster, because some of the fillers are really important, or some of the fillers that has some things in it that makes it interesting but not really good for the canon or for what is continuation of the episode. I'm not gonna talk about a lot of things in here, like examples, the working with Sid, and they're going to stay in Pabu. You're just gonna have to watch it on your own. Now that's it. I think that's most of it. Now you're gonna get to the most very important stuff, the characters, which is I really like to talk because some of the characters here are really good. There's really good character writing. The plot is okay, but the character writing is almost as okay, but a bit way better. It helps the plot moving and the story, which is pretty good sum up for the show. Now let's start with the good guys and the baddies. Sorry, the bad guys. One of the good guys is obviously the Bad Batch. Hunter, Wrecker, Tech, Echo, and Crosshair. Now Crosshair begins as a protagonist. He came from a semi-good guy to from soldier bad guy to, in the end of episode 3, becomes okay good guy again. Now, there's also, forgot to mention there are some characters that is like for like filler moments or for like interesting moments that you're gonna watch other shows. For example, there's Harrison Dula, there's Kanan Jarrus or Caleb Doom in the Star Wars Rebels, which are also important. And there's also Saw Gerrera. Saw Gerrera is part of the Star Wars Rebels 2, and also in Star Wars Rogue One. So there's also one other person I saw there, Asajj Ventress, is supposed to be in the Clone Wars because, gosh, when I saw Asajj Ventress, it was pretty cool. Everything about him was amazing. I have to say, like, it was pretty amazing to see her once again because I watched a bit of the Clone Wars and he's an absolute unit, I guess. Now, for a lot of particular characters, Omega and Crosshair and Hunter were the big, huge stepping step. For example, Omega. Now, Omega plays a really huge part in the Bad Batch. He is the daughter of Jango Fett, the main clone. He's actually older than the Bad Batch, and he also has a high M count, which brings the theory of the Palpatine, which is the super bad guy, who was planning Project Necromancer, and it was backed by Royce Hemlock. We'll get to that later. But yeah, Omega was such a was supposed to be like somewhat a kind of clone cartoon, but he just became as a kid. I like how when he just started as a problem. If I was either Crosshair or mostly if I was either Hunter or Wrecker or Tech, I would be mad because he would just goes around and not cause trouble, but just curious and almost got the entire Bad Batch in trouble. But now the entire Bad Batch trusts her because he's part of the family now and they understand her, and which makes them more understanding of they need to do not just doing good, but also doing like the right thing in a certain action, which is why Omega is there. You also need Omega as a plot device because she is actually really important. Now, what shines the most in here for the character development or like what's character growth is probably Crosshair, because Crosshair at the beginning was the bad person, but then Crosshair changes from being super baddie to super goodie, and I'm pretty sure I need to talk a lot about the changes of Crosshair, but I'll start it from here. From the beginning, he's always stuck with the good soldiers follow orders thing. That's basically what all the clones are, if the inhibitor chip wasn't. But, spoiler, he didn't have the inhibitor chip, which makes him like an actual pseudo-soldier who's actually going to follow orders no matter what. He is the man who is willing to do the most atrocities just because someone on the higher rank told him to. And he does it. He does those stuff. But then he realized that there is no beneficial for anything. And then he realized the reason why he does all the things that he can do is because of the Bad Batch. He realized that none of the orders or none of the people in the Empire really actually cares for the clones, which talking about the clone rights thing. Everybody was so, against clones in the Empire. It made Crosshair realize there's no point of following orders if those orders were absolutely meant for nothing. It was all for nothing, and all you do was follow a guy into their pits. For example, there's an episode where the final breaking point of Echo, Crosshair, as I said, he was stuck with Wedge during his icy planets to get cargo. They failed, but he still managed to, save Wedge until he didn't. Admiral Fleabag, Admiral Slamo just sit there and do nothing and say, yeah, whatever, you're useless, doesn't matter, I don't care, blah blah blah. He was just being a massive, hoodoo. I'm using a lot of Star Wars slangs here because that's how much I know. So yeah, after that he was really mad and shot him and realized that following the Empire was not worth it. Following every single order it's not just for it's not that because that he asked to. He realized he has free will, and even though that if that doesn't work, and he always has the Bad Batch, his brothers, to support him. Now for Hunter, Wrecker, and Tech and Echo, they didn't much change anything. They just become the parents of them. I like how Wrecker and Omega's interactions were really great. He was like a big brother in it, but mostly Hunter was a big father for him because he was no learning responsibility. He's the one who trained him, and he mostly is the person who trusted Omega the most. Now for Tech, Tech is probably not one of my least favorite, but I like Echo more than Tech. Forgive me. He's this usual pseudoscience guy who didn't show any emotion. The classic. I don't show any emotion because I'm just too smart of it. The Sheldon Cooper and stuff. But then he does come around and realize that that Omega is really important, and he realized that sometimes that being honest too much is not really the greatest for a clone child. There are so many other characters such as like Rex. Rex is basically the clone savior or the clone human resources, basically like rehabilitating clones and moving them to other places. Because he really likes clones and he can't resist the will of his brothers, being gone to waste. And he also is the person who actually resisted the inhibited shifting, which is really nice, and I really like that. Now for the other things like the Kaminoans, now let's say not Lamasu and all the other droids, such as AZ, they're all just background characters, but they were really, interesting to note that what is the political state of the galaxy and also the future of the Camino cloning facility and also the future of clones. I guess there's all the bad guys. Now the good guys. Let's start to the middle guys. For example, Phee Genoa, the space pirate. I don't think it was good or bad or anything. I think it was just using the Bad Batch for his personal stuff. But she is the one who gives like Pabu, Pabu as they plan if they wanted to retire, which is okay. I didn't. Genoa is like one of my least favorite characters because he was just there for a helping for the Bad Batch for staying. He is a good person. I wish he would just add something more to give, like maybe like he wants to fight. He's not just a pirate. He has depth. He doesn't like. I wish there was like more to her story. And now let's go to the bad guys. Sid. Sid wasn't actually a bad guy, but I just knew that he was going to betray the Bad Batch because he was just in it for the dough. I knew that he was going to betray him at season 1 because I started to look at his attitude, and he actually really cared for the Bad Batch. It was during the episode, like it was one of filler where Tech was racing, and then he saved Sid's life. And then the big guy said, ignoring, Sid will do anything because he would just take advantage of you. He's just doing it for the money. And it is pretty true. And I understand. It's a big galaxy there. We don't know, when you're not going to get your next meal. It's just like in real life, guys. Now, let's continue from the actual bad guys. Such as Palpatine. Palpatine is the usual. It would just be, the evil Sith Lord. He's responsible for, the M counts. So the reason why Project Necromancer is there is for Palpatine to create kids that can continue midichlorian counts as the Force, and Omega is one of those people. And that's it. That's basically it. That's why episode 7, 8, 9, and it's get really important, which rate and blah blah blah, and continue on. Now for more such as Grand Moff Tarkin is basically the same thing. He's just there for the making of the clones and stuff. He's just there for he doesn't like clones either. There's so many people here that doesn't like clones. Mostly the military, mostly the Imperials were really not a big fan of clones. I don't even know if Palpatine liked clones either. Rampant, Grand Moff Tarkin, Royce Hemlock, and Scarrow, they're all anti-clones. They're clone-cist. Now, the second villain here is Rampant. I think Rampant is an okay, irredeemable villain that deserves like death like that. During the final episodes, Rampant was just a regular clone-cist. He was just, even though he was following orders, he really liked the orders because he was just meant to destroy the clones. He was responsible for the death of many. Also, he didn't like clones, and he's also just like have a bad attitude, which makes him a bit selfish and doesn't matter what. Like he's just a coward as usual, and I like how he's just doing it for the sake of him being top of the Empire. That's it. Now, if you want a real cool villain, I suggest I think the greatest villain in this show is Sir Royce Hemlock. Hemlock is a master and finesse villain. He is a unsympathetic person who couldn't care less about what happened to his experiments. There's a literal quote of him telling that do not engage with your experiments or do not engage with the beings. They're nothing but experiments. And I like that. I like that he's so soft-spoken about the most heinous thing ever. He can talk about like mass war crimes, and he's like a Unit 731 doctor who can tell like I'm going to like dissect you and I'm going to like make you see hell because I just needed to for science and everything. And he's not the villain like, oh, he's the villain because another villain influenced him, like Grand Moff Tarkin because he was funding his Project Necromancer. But no, he actually wanted this. He wants the Project Necromancer, and he is an actual villain because he couldn't care less about clones, about anything he invents. That's the same energy as like some kind of Unit 731 doctor or a plague doctor, if I say so, or a mad scientist, because he literally is mad scientist. I say for the Scarlet and the other scientists, which is I really like that because unsympathetic, and then they get what they deserve because all they care is about the experiment and they didn't care less about the people, what they do to them. And that's it. I'm pretty sure I'm almost gonna run out of room as soon as possible. Probably it's been a really while. That's it for my rant of Star Wars: The Bad Batch. Really good villain, really good heroes. Now let's rate it. I'm giving The Bad Batch a 8.2.1. So 8.3. Why? There's so many there's already stuff that so many has happened. There's some things that I don't like in this, but there's so many things I really like. Villains, the plot, the lore, and everything. And there are just some things that doesn't make any sense.